بسم الله والصلاة والسلام الأتمان الأكملان على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، فاللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما وانفعنا بما علمتنا يا رب العالمين. So we continue the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha regarding a person that has intercourse with his wife before Fajr and continues to fast after Fajr, and Masail rulings pertaining to that. So we have here the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, likewise Salam, whereby they say أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يصبح جنبا من جماع. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم will reach the morning in a state of major impurity as a result of having sexual intercourse. ثم يغتسل ويصوم, then he would have a bath and fast. متفق عليه, this is in Al-Bukhari and Muslim. So this could be a person that has sexual intercourse right before Fajr, or he has his suhoor and then has sexual intercourse, or other way around, regardless of how it's done. As long as he does this act before Fajr, then he can continue fasting. The Shaykh will go on to other masail or rulings that relate to this.
نعم. فإن قال قائل إذا تبين الفجر والإنسان على أهله.
So this is when a person realizes Fajr in the middle of the act, during the act.
هل يستمر؟ نعم. سألني سائل منكم وهو شاب ما عنده زوج.
So the Shaykh said, does he continue the act, or does he stop immediately? And then he's obviously discussing with his students, and someone saying no, and the Shaykh, someone, a young youth, asked him regarding this matter.
قال أفلا يقاس هذا على الحديث الوارد أن الإنسان إذا طلع الفجر وفي يده الماء فليشرب حتى يقضي نهمته منه.
So he said, can we use the analogy based upon the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, if Fajr has reached and like you're in the middle of eating and drinking, then or the Shaykh said in his hand is water, like he's in the middle of drinking, and whilst he's drinking the Fajr's, he's realized his Fajr, then the Prophet ﷺ said, let him fulfill his need. So he said, okay, can we not use the same analogy here? Let him fulfill his need. So this is what a student or someone asked him, can we use analogy based upon that hadith?
نعم. فما رأيكم في هذا القياس؟ نعم. المهم حتى يقضي النهمة.
So the Sheikh says, one student said, no, it's different because this takes long. It's like eating, drinking, finishing off your food is quick. And another one says, need is a need. And the Sheikh said, that's what the hadith says. But then we'll see what the Sheikh says in response to that.
هل القياس صحيح ولا غير صحيح؟ أنت يا وليد غير صحيح. هذا هو الظاهر يجب عليه إذا طلع عليه الفجر وهو على أهله أن ينزع في الحال.
The Sheikh says what's apparent, and agrees with Walid, one of his students, is that you must stop immediately. And he's going to tell us a reason why you cannot use the analogy based upon the hadith of a person, he's in the middle of drinking and his Fajr, and he completes his need, fulfills his need of drinking.
ولا يجوز السماع. وفرق بين هذا وهذا الشرب فيه تقوية للصائم على صومه.
So the first difference is the fact that drinking is something that strengthens the body, whereas this is something that's going to do the opposite. It's going to weaken him.
الجماع لا ولا يصح قياس هذا على هذا. ثانيا أنه كما قال الأخ وليد ربما يكون بقاؤه في الجماع أطول من شربك.
And likewise, the time, right? It's probably going to be a lot longer. Whereas it's an immediate thing. You just quickly drink and eat to your, the hadith the Sheikh mentions drinking. You just drink what you need from water quickly, and that's it.
أحد الإخوان من الطلبة عن شأن المرأة، هل عليها كفارة أو قضاء؟ لأنها لم تذكر في الحديث.
Okay, regarding the woman, what's upon her if her husband did this act with her whilst she's fasting?
والجواب أن نقول أن المرأة لم يأتي لها ذكر، والرجل استفتى عما حصل منه.
So what we find is that the woman is not spoken about. And in the hadith that's already preceded, we didn't take the explanation. A man asked regarding himself because he had had intercourse with his wife whilst he was fasting. And the ruling was given regarding him. And the ruling relating to the woman was not mentioned. So the Sheikh says, okay, what is the ruling? What is the ruling of a woman that has sexual intercourse whilst fasting?
والمرأة قد تكون مكرهة فلا شيء عليه.
So the woman, if she was forced, she was compelled, then there's nothing upon her.
وقد تكون جاهلة وقد تكون مفطرة، لأنه سبق أن المرأة إذا طهرت من الحيض في أثناء النهار لا يلزمها الإمساك.
Okay, likewise, she could be not fasting, even if it's Ramadan, because if a woman, her menstrual cycle stops in the middle of the day of Ramadan, then she wouldn't be fasting. So let's say her menstrual cycle stops after Dhuhr, she wouldn't be fasting. So there would be, she would not, the obligation of fasting wouldn't even apply to her.
على القول الراجح، فالمهم أن يقال الحديث ليس فيه ذكر للمرأة لا بالوجوب الكفارة ولا بانتفاعه.
So what we find in the hadith, there's nothing to say, nothing that obligates expiation for a woman, neither does it negate. You don't find a ruling for the woman specifically.
وجوب هذا ولا بانتفاعه، ولكن لدينا قاعدة عامة شرعية، وهي أنه ما ثبت في حق الرجال ثبت في حق النساء إلا بدليل.
But we have a general principle, which is any ruling, any ahkam that's applicable to the men are applicable to the woman unless there is evidence to show otherwise. Men and women are the same when it comes to all the rulings, unless we have a specific evidence to exclude the woman.
وما ثبت في حق النساء ثبت في حق الرجال إلا بدليل. هذه القاعدة في جميع الأحكام الشرعية.
This is with regards to every single aspect of the Sharia when it comes to rulings in the various fields of the Sharia.
وإذا كان كذلك نقول الأصل أن المرأة إذا وافقت الزوج عالمة بالتحريم.
So the Shaykh says, if the woman agrees with the man to have sexual intercourse while she's fasting, whilst knowing that it's haram,
غير معذورة بالنسيان،
without having the excuse of forgetfulness,
ولا إكراه،
neither being forced,
فحكمها كالزوج.
then she has the same ruling as the man. Yes, the expiation.
فإن قال قائل أرأيت لو أنها استجابت ظنا منها أنه يجب عليها طاعة زوجها في هذا.
Okay. If she thought that it's obligatory upon her to comply in order to obey the husband, what's the ruling then? She didn't want to, but her husband called her and she agreed because she thought that, the general hadith of, obeying the husband, and especially when it comes to intimacy. So she thought based upon that she has to do it, that she, She didn't have a choice, that she thought that she had to obey her husband even when it comes to this.
فهل عليها القضاء والكفارة؟ فالجواب لا، لأن في هذه الحال جاهلة.
In that case, no. In that case, she's considered to be ignorant, right? She's considered to be ignorant, and in that, and she would not be expected to pay the expiation. She will not be expected to pay the expiation. So the ruling that occurred, that the rule, so if she agreed, whilst having knowledge, whilst knowing, not being forced, not being ignorant, not being forgetful, then the stages of expiation would apply to her also. Right, we move on to the next hadith now. This hadith is the hadith.
وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها.
This hadith is also the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha. It mentions أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, that the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, من مات وعليه صيام صام عنه وليه متفق عليه. Whomsoever dies whilst having a fast upon them, i.e. whilst owing a fast to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the wali fasts it. Then the wali fasts that fast. The meaning of wali, the Shaykh will explain, inshallah ta'ala.
في قوله عليه الصيام حال من فاعل مات صام عنه، هذا جواب الشرط.
He's just talking about grammar a little bit.
يعني وارثه.
So وليه وارثه. Warith are the people that inherit from him. Yes? So these are the people that would fast on his behalf.
والدليل على أن الولي هنا الوارث قول النبي صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم ألحقوا الفرائض بأهلها فما بقي فلأولى رجل ذكر.
Yeah, the Shaykh mentions a hadith, to give the inheritance to his people, and that which remains then is for the awla rajulin dhakar. Awla usually means the most deserving. Allahu alam, maybe it means something different here, but a male. But the Shaykh does say the meaning of wali here is the people that inherit.
وهذا يدل على أن الورثة هم الأولياء، وهو كذلك. ومن المعلوم أن الأقرب أولى من الأبعد.
And he says that the aqrab, the closer ones, the people that are more deserving of the inheritance, or the one that has the closest relationship, would have would be more this hadith would be more applicable to them than those that are further apart, that more in distance in terms of relationship.
يتساووا فهم سواء.
If they're the same in strength or in level of relationship, then this hadith will apply to them equally.
وهذا الحديث اختلف العلماء رحمهم الله هل هو باقي؟
So let me just listen again.
أو منسوخ. فما بقي فلأولى رجل ذكر، وهذا يدل على أن الورثة هم الأولياء، وهو كذلك. ومن المعلوم أن الأقرب أولى من الأبعد، فإذا تساووا فهم سواء.
So he's saying that which is known is that those that are closer is more deserving than those that are further away. If they're same in level of relationship, then they are the same. They are the same. Wallah, I think he's referring to how this hadith would apply. Like the closer the person is in terms of relationship and in terms of inheritance, then the more this hadith will apply to them. And the further they are, the less it would apply to them. But it applies to anybody that can do it. Wallahu alam. That's what I've understood from this.
وهذا الحديث اختلف العلماء رحمهم الله هل هو باقي أو منسوخ وهل هو خاص بصوم دون صوم أم عام.
The scholars have differed regarding this hadith. First and foremost, hadith is definitely authentic. It's in Bukhari and Muslim. But they differed with regards to whether it's abrogated or not. And likewise, they differed with regards to whether it's regarding a specific type of fast or any type of fast. So this is referring to someone that's died and they have to fast and their relatives fast on their behalf.
طيب فلننظر في الفوائد. أولا في هذا الحديث فوائد منها أن من مات وعليه صيام فإنه يصوم عنه وليه وهو واضح. فإن قال قائل هل صوم الولي واجب أو سنة؟ فالجواب أنه سنة وليس بواجب.
So the Shaykh now goes into the benefits of this hadith. Obviously, the main one being that, you know, the relatives fast on behalf of a person that's died and owed fasts. Now, is this fasting of the relative or relatives obligatory or is it recommended? The Shaykh says it's recommended. It's not obligatory.
لأننا لو قلنا إنه واجب ولم يصم لأثم.
Because then, if you say it's obligatory for the relative to fast on behalf of the person that's died, then that would necessitate that if they didn't do it, then they will be sinning.
وقد قال الله تعالى ولا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a general qa'idah, which is one person does not carry the burden, i.e. the sins of another person.
وعليه فيكون قوله صام عن وليه على سبيل الاستحباب والسنية. ومن فوائده أنه لا بد أن يكون على الميت صوم على الصوم.
So the second benefit is that there has to, so you can't just be a person fasting on their behalf, any kind of fast. It has to be a fast which was obligatory, which the person, basically the person, it's like a debt, right? Something that they have to owe Allah. Not just a person randomly fasting saying, I'm going to fast on behalf of my dad, etc. I'm going to fast Arafah, or I'm going to fast Ashura, etc. And this is a very important point. Because people, what they do is they read Quran and they say, this is for my dad, this is for my mom, this is for this is for that, who's died or whatever. And this is something that's not established. There's not you could say legislated. In fact, it's an innovation. Just like you can't fast to benefit the dead person, pray to benefit the dead person, you can't read the Quran, and likewise, you can't just do any fast, right? The things that the ways you can benefit that person is very, very clear. It's established. X, Y, Z. Making dua, right? The janazah, that's the prayer, the funeral prayer. Likewise, you can make umrah on their behalf, and you can give sadaqah on their behalf. Things like that. It's very limited. As for saying, I'm just going to do whatever and then give some of that and then have that intention to pass on the reward, then no. So you find here, the Prophet ﷺ taught us how a person can benefit the dead when it comes to their fast that they owed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
فإن كان صوم تطوع كرجل اعتاد أن يصوم من كل شهر 3 أيام ولكنه لم يصوم حتى طلع الشهر، هل يصوم عنه وليه أو لا؟ الجواب لا يصوم، لأن قول عليه يدل على الوجوب.
So as you can see, the fact the chef gave an example, like if he was there's someone used to fast in a certain type of fast, and he died before he was able to do fast, then he said no, because here the word alayhi means upon him indicates obligatory, something that was obligated upon him, but he didn't manage to fulfill it.
قائلي أنه لابد أن يكون عليه الصوم، فإن لم يكن عليه فإنه لا يصام عنه وإن كان فرضا. مثاله رجل.
Then the Sheikh goes to the next one, which is even if it was a fard psalm, it must be obligatory upon him to fast. And the Sheikh is going to give an example of how it could be an obligatory fast. Whereby a person was not obligated to make up or compensate. In which case, the relatives would not be expected to make up. He's going to give examples.
مرض في رمضان، من أول رمضان مرض مرضا يرجى زوال وترجى العافية منه.
So he gives an example, right? So a person, he becomes sick from the beginning of Ramadan, but this is a sickness whereby he's expected to become well. He's expected to be cured, right? In which case, he would make up the fast after he's relieved of his ailment.
وبقي على هذا، لكن بعد رمضان اشتد به الوجع حتى مات.
Okay, so after Ramadan, let's say on Eid, he became really ill and then he died. Okay, in this situation, what the Sheikh is going to say, there's nothing upon him. So the relatives it's not legislated for the relatives to make up the fast. And he's going to explain why.
فهل يصوم عنه وليه؟ لا يصوم، لأن هذا لم يجب عليه الصوم. هذا فرض أن يصوم من أيام أخرى، فعدة من أيام أخرى. العدة من الأيام الأخرى لم يتمكن منها.
So that which was obligatory upon this sick person, was to fast from the other days, and he wasn't given the opportunity to reach the other days in order to become obligatory upon him, right? Therefore the relatives do not have to make up that fast because he didn't have the opportunity. So he must have the opportunity and die, and that's when we would say, okay, the relatives should make up that fast for him.
حلك. مثال آخر، رجل مسافر كل رمضان وأفطر، وفي يوم العيد حصل عليه حادث ومات.
Another one, let's say a person was traveling and on Eid, he died in an accident, right? He was a traveler, he took the concession, he owed some fasts. On Eid, he got into an accident and he died.
يصوم عنه وليه أو لا؟ نعم، لا يصوم، لأنه لم يجب عليه الصوم.
They don't fast. The relatives do not have to, or neither is it legislated to, not have to, but neither is it recommended for them to fast on his behalf, because the obligation has not been initiated for him, because he died before the obligation or the legislation of making up fast would apply to him.
فإن الصوم الواجب عليه عدة من أيام أخرى، وهنا لم يتمكن. وعلى هذا نقول المريض إذا ترك الصوم فإن كان مرضه لا يرجى برؤه فالواجب إيش؟ الإطعام.
So the sick person, if it's a terminal illness where a person is not expected to be cured and they cannot fast, then in the case, what they're supposed to do is feed. They feed the poor.
عليه ولا على وليه، وإن كان مرضه يرجى برؤه ثم استمر به حتى مات فلا إطعام ولا قضاء.
So the next one is, sorry, let me go back to that one.
وإن كان مرضه يرجى برؤه ثم استمر به حتى مات فلا إطعام ولا قضاء.
So the next one is where a person's ill, but they died. They died before they died on Eid, basically, right? In that case, there's no. So if a person was ill, whereby they were expected to be cured, so it wasn't a illness where they were not expected to be cured, and they planned to make up the fast after Eid, but then they died on Eid. In that case, they wouldn't need to feed. They wouldn't have needed to feed. There's no feeding, neither is there any making up.
وإن كان مرض يرجى برؤه وشفي بعد رمضان كان من القضاء كأن يكون عليه 5 أيام وبقي صحيحا شحيحا 5 أيام من شوال ثم مات، فهذا هو الذي ينطبق عليه هذا الحديث.
The Sheikh says, as for a person who had an illness whereby they were expected to be cured and they were well and healthy after Ramadan, let's say they owed 5 days and they were healthy for 5 days after Eid and they died, then this is where this hadith is applicable.
ونقول إنه يصوم عنه وليه لأنه تمكن من قضاء الصوم أكمل ولم يصوم.
Why? Because he had the opportunity to make up the fast and he did not fast. Therefore, in that case, the relatives can make up the fast.
واجب في ذمته فيصوم عنه وليه. طيب قلنا إن كلمة الصيام يشمل إيش؟ كل واجب سواء رمضان أو كفارة أو فدية.
So the word siyam, upon it means to fast, includes every single type of obligatory fast, whether it be fasting Ramadan or kafara, which is like when you make an oath, say wallahi I will do this and then you don't do it. Or fidya is like ransom, like when you do something wrong in Umrah and you have to pay a ransom, right? Of fasting. Sorry, in Hajj, and you have to pay a ransom of fasting. And all of these, any kind of obligatory fast, it doesn't just have to be Ramadan.
فإن قال قائل هل يجوز أن يوزع الصوم الواجب بين الأولياء مثل أن يكون لهذا الميت 6 أولاد وعليه رمضان كل 30 يوم، هل يجوز أن نقول يصوم كل واحد 5 أيام؟ نعم يجوز، كما يجوز أن يقضي الدين عن هؤلاء ال5 لو كان عليه 600 ريال وقضى.
The Sheikh now goes to the next point. Can you spread the fast amongst more than one people? Then he said yes. If a person has more, like he has, let's say 5 sons or whatever, and he has multiple fasts, then all of them can fast. Let's say he owes 5 fasts and he has 5 sons. So the Sheikh mentioned a similar example. So each one of them can fast one. Just like if you had a debt, right? They can all pay a part of the debt. You can spread it amongst the people. It doesn't have to be one person doing all of the fast or one person paying all of the debt.
كل واحد 100 أجزاء. طيب فإن قال قائل إذا كان عليه صوما إذا كان عليه صوم متتابع فهل يجوز اقتسامه؟ لا يجوز، في تفصيل. يجوز لا يجوز، قولان في التفصيل 3 أقوال.
Then the Sheikh goes on to the affair of what if it's an obligatory fast that was upon the dead person, if the obligatory fast was a consecutive fast where you have to fast continuous day after day, you could without taking breaks. So you fast the first day, then second day, then the third day, and you have scenarios where you have to fast consecutively, non-stop, right? how about then? Can you still spread it if what's obligatory is is consecutive fasts?
نعم ما بقي شيء. نعم ما وصلنا إلى طعام، كلامنا على الصيام. نعم نشوف التتابع لازم أن يكون يوم بعد يوم، والتتابع كتلة واحدة، وعليه فنقول لا يجوز لاشتراط التتابع. فإذا
Yes, the Sheikh says not allowed because the whole point of tatabu is that one person he goes through that hardship of having to fast day after day and not having that concession of just spreading it out and having breaks.
ما يتتابعون، يقول لهذا صم يوما ثم الثاني اليوم الثاني ثم الثالث اليوم الثالث. قلنا لكن الذي صام اليوم الثاني لم يصم الأول.
The whole point is to be consecutive. So if you was to spread it, then one person fasts day one, another person fasts day two. The first person that is not going to fast the second day, and the second person not going to fast the first day. So it will no longer be consecutive.
والذي صام الثالث لم يصم الأول ولا الثاني. وعلى هذا فما اشترط فيه التتابع فلا بد أن يكون الصائم واحدا، ولكن الأمر كما قلنا أولا ليس على سبيل الوجوب.
So if it's a scenario where a person has to fast consecutive fast, then it has to be one person. But again, it's not obviously obligatory, it's recommended, right? Because it's not his obligation, but he's availing the obligation from somebody else, an obligation that was upon somebody else.
ما هو الذي يشترط فيه التتابع؟ صيام الشهرين وصيام اليمين 3 أيام متتابعة.
The Sheikh says, what are the scenarios where you have to do consecutive fasts? He said one is when you have to fast two months in a row. I think this is Allahu Adam when a person has sexual intercourse during Ramadan in the daytime whilst he's fasting. Allahu Adam, I think it's that one he's talking about. I believe there's another one as well where a man says to his wife, "You're like the back of my mother," but I'm not sure. And another one mentions is kafaratul yamin. It's like when you make an oath and you break the oath. And the ikhtilaf, the scholars differed whether it has to be consecutive or not. The Sheikh obviously is of the opinion that it needs to be consecutive. So you fast 3 days in a row, non-stop. Well, I mean, non-stop meaning what? You fast day one, then day two, then day three, without taking any breaks. So Sunday, then Monday, then Tuesday, like that.
فدية الأداء أصومها غير متتابع. وكذلك
فدية الأداء, for example, this is in Hajj, where you take a concession due to a harm, then you would, if you need to fast due to that, then it doesn't have to be consecutive.
دم التمتع بدلا عن الهدي إذا لم يجد ليس متتابعا، فيجوز أن يقضي كل واحد منهم ما يتفقون عليه. من العجب أن أكثر العلماء رحمهم الله لا يرون العمل بهذا الحديث.
The Sheikh says what's strange, if you like, is that most scholars do not see that this hadith is, this hadith is something that's to be acted upon. Basically, it's not. It's either weak. They say it's either weak or it's abrogated.
ويرون أنه منسوخ.
Yeah, obviously it's not weak because it's in Bukhari Muslim, but they say it's mansukh, is abrogated.
بما لا دليل فيه على النص، إما لضعفه وإما لأنه لا دلالة. ومن العلماء وهو الإمام أحمد رحمه الله من قال هذا في النذر خاصة في النذر، لأن
from the scholars who said this is specific to nadhr. Nadhr is like an oath where you take an oath and obligate something. It's like I have to, where you say I have to fast for the sake of Allah, such and such. You make an oath that you will do something for Allah. Like you make something that's compelled. Lillahi alayya kada, which means like for Allah upon me is to do such and such. Right? It's called nether, where you sometimes a person may even say, if Allah does this, I will make sure I will fast such and such. So Imam Ahmad said that's what this hadith is only talking about, that nether.
النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم سئل عن ميت مات وعليه صوم نذر فأمر بقضائه.
So Imam Ahmad held that view, and he used the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ was asked about someone that died, and he'd made nadhr, he made this oath, and he ordered that should be compensated, should be made up. Right? So he said that's what this hadith is talking about. That's the view of Imam Ahmad.
فيحمل هذا على النذر، وهذا مذهب الإمام أحمد رحمه الله، وهذا قول.
Yeah, the Sheikh said this is the madhab or the view of Imam Ahmad, and the Sheikh is Hanbali, he follows the madhab of Imam Ahmad, but he doesn't agree. Shows you that he's not a blind follower.
ضعيف لوجهين.
The Sheikh said this is a weak view due to two reasons.
أن القضية المندرجة في عموم اللفظ لا تخصصه أبدا.
Yeah. So if we have a general wording like this, whomsoever dies and upon him is a fast, upon him shows that we're talking about obligatory fast, and there are various types of obligatory fast. It's general. Then his wali fast on his behalf. And we have this other hadith regarding nadhr, which is an oath, right? So an oath is a small aspect of obligatory fast, the various types. So we can't say that a small aspect of something is applicable to a hadith that's much broader. That's the principle.
القضية المندرجة في عموم اللفظ لا تخصص.
Yeah, so القضية المندرجة في عموم اللفظ لا تخصصه, because which means we have a small aspect in a different hadith, which is we have a specific aspect in a different hadith, which is a small part of this hadith, which can go under this hadith. This hadith is broader, so we cannot say that small aspect of this hadith regarding the oath, which is a small part of obligatory fast, is going to specify a more broader hadith.
فذكر بعض أفراد العام بحكم يطابق حكم العام ليس تخصيصا له، ولكنه ذكر بعض أفراده الذي ينطبق عليه العموم.
Yeah, so when you have a different hadith which speaks about a small aspect of another hadith, i.e. this hadith, which is much broader, and they both have the same ruling, we cannot say that the hadith which is a small aspect of the broader hadith is the hadith that's going to specify what type of ruling or what type of fast in this case it's speaking about.
وقد ذكر هذه القاعدة الأصوليون ممن ذكرها الشنقيطي رحمه الله في تفسيره وغيره. ثانيا أن نقول سبحان الله، كيف نحمل المسألة على الحديث على النذر والصوم الواجب بالنذر بالنسبة للصوم الواجب في رمضان قليل ولا قليل؟ لا شيء فكر. نعم قليل جدا جدا.
Another thing is, if we look at this hadith, which is general in wording, and we look at what's more common, what is far more common? What's far more common is people have Ramadan fast which they have to make up, whether it's due to sickness, whether it's due to traveling, whether it's due to menstruation, whether it's due to whatever the excuse may be. right? So therefore, that's the most immediate thing that's fast the mind goes to. So how can we say something that's more obvious and more applicable is to be ignored over something that's very rare, which is the fast for taking an oath?
فهل يجوز أن نحمل اللفظ العام على المسألة النادرة ونلغي المسائل الكثيرة؟
Yeah. So is it permissible? Can we take a general wording and apply it to something that's so rare and leave the more common aspects of this hadith and ignore it? So obviously it's not something that's logical to do.
هذا لا يجوز. ولكن كما بينا لكم أولا لا بد لكل جواد من كبوة ولكل صارم من نبوة.
But Sheikh mentions like an Arab proverb, which means like, everything perfect must have something of a blemish. Like, so even the likes of Imam Ahmed, with his knowledge and with his status, he can still have that mistake. He can still have, he can still slip up. It's not something that is, it's not infallible.
بشر. وإلا لو تأملت حق التأمل لقلت لمن لا يقول إنه منسوخ ولكنه خاص بالنذر لقلت سبحان الله كيف تحمل هذا العموم اللفظي بعموم الشرط على شيء نادر وتدع الشيء الكثير. وإذا تنزلنا تنزلا غير واجب علينا.
And even if we say for argument's sake, we say this hadith, all of this is talking about another, all of this is speaking about the oath one.
قلنا إذا كان يقضى النذر الذي أوجبه الإنسان على نفسه كما أوجبه الله على الإنسان من باب أولى.
Then we would say, even if we say all of this hadith is talking about the oath one, right? Then we would say to make up the old fast of Ramadan is more worthy and more deserving by way of analogy, right? Because this another is something a person obligates upon themselves. As for fast, then Allah has obligated upon us. So even by way of qiyas, by way of analogy, we will say it's more, even though even though they're incorrect in this, even if it's say, for argument's sake, we agree to this, then we'll say they're still wrong.
فالصواب إذن أن من مات وعليه صيام فإنه يصوم عنه وليه. لكن انتبه كلمة عليه صيام لتخرج إيش النفل ولتخرج الواجب الذي لم يجب عليه بحيث لم يجب.
Okay, so the Sheikh just finishes it off and says that this is only when it's obligatory when it had been obligatory upon the dead person, whereby it's not a voluntary fast, neither is an obligatory fast which they did not have opportunity to make up, whereby they down eat mathalan. I just want to go back to the different scenarios the Sheikh went through, because I feel like I might have made a mistake. 1 second. So here, the Sheikh is going to mention the 3 types. So the first is a sick person that did not fast.
فإن كان مرضه لا يرجى برؤه.
So if it's a sickness where he's not expected to be cured.
الواجب إيش الإطعام.
Then he's supposed to feed and there's no qada. He doesn't have to make up the fast.
عليه ولا على ولي.
Yeah. Neither. So there's no qada upon him, neither upon the wali. So if he died, there's nothing also on the relatives.
وإن كان مرضه يرجى برؤه ثم استمر به حتى مات.
Okay, the next one. If it's an illness where he's expected to be cured and he continued like that until he died.
فلا إطعام ولا قضاء.
Right? Then there's no it'am, there's no feeding, neither is there qada. Qada meaning making up.
وإن كان مرض يرجى برؤه.
The next one. If it's an illness where he's expected to be cured
شفي بعد رمضان.
and he was cured after Ramadan
تمكن من القضاء.
and he had the opportunity to make up the fast,
كأن يكون عليه 5 أيام وبقي صحيحا شحيحا 5 أيام.
like say he had 5 days to make up and he was healthy for 5 days
من شوال
from in the month of Shawwal,
فهذا هو الذي ينطبق على هذا الحديث.
yeah, then he died, then this is the one that we're talking about, whereby the relatives would make up that 5 fast. We'll stop there inshallah. Wallahu ta'ala alam wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.